GNE, FDA orphan drug status.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Dario here with another Options and Play video update. We have a pretty good lineup of earnings coming this week, and while tech and software will definitely get most of the attention because it's got a lot of bigger names, a lot of kind of momentum-based patterns. Um, we do have quite a bit of other other reports in kind of retail or maybe like beaten up areas. And what I've noticed is that, including last week and even going out to next week, we're kind of into like a period where there's a lot of names reporting where a lot of really negative sentiment, right? And so a lot of like high short interest. And I get asked pretty frequently what my take is on short interest and earnings. All right, and basically the easiest answer I can say is that high short interest won't specifically get me into a trade. All right, for earnings, it will make something that I'm looking at more interesting if I think the pattern and the option pricing is good, and then short interest would be the icing on the cake. All right. But just because something has 30% short interest or 40% short interest, that in and of itself is not going to get me involved with an idea, because I want more than anything the technical pattern to be good, right, and the option pricing to be good as well. All right, so I've talked about that in the past, the technical setup and the option setup, right? So you've heard me go on about that over and over and over again. So I'm not going to get into it, but short interest. So I'd say anything over like 25% to me is on the higher side. Under that, I mean, if it's like 20, I mean, that's still elevated, but it's not at the point where it's like jumps out. It's like, wow, that's crazy high, right? But above 25%, 30, 40. I mean, we've seen a couple names report with short interest above 40, even like in a 50 range, right? And like that's very, very, very high. So that gets me, that gets me excited that a potential move could be extremely exaggerated, right? So if it's surprisingly good, it could be a huge short squeeze. If it's surprisingly bad, maybe people pile on, right? All those people that are short are on the right side of it, and it really gets hit hard, right? So the short interest can work both ways, but short interest in and of itself, like that to me is not necessarily reason to jump into something, right? So with like Revolve, which I've talked about, it was like this really nice pattern, right? You had an e-commerce name that was above most of its moving. It was actually above all of its near moving averages, and it was just hanging underneath the downtrend resistance, right? Going into a quarter where a lot of other e-commerce names had done well, right? Had actually had a good quarter last quarter, so it had some fundamental momentum, had an interesting technical setup, option pricing seemed low, and then you look at the short interest, right? And it was like high 30s short interest, so like that adds to what is already an interesting pattern, right? A name reporting this week, which is kind of interesting to me, is Nordstrom. So Kohl's reported last week. It was bad, dragged Nordstrom down with it. But what's interesting about Nordstrom is that it's basically hovering right above a really big level of support, right? Low expectations thanks to Kohl's, and it has a history of moving. So option pricing doesn't seem too bad. Technical pattern doesn't seem too bad. And then icing on the cake is that there's over 40% short interest. So like that makes it more interesting, right? So I'm not looking at Nordstrom just because it has 40% plus short interest, but I'm looking at Nordstrom because the technical setup is good and the option setup seems interesting to me. All right. So like that's really what I kind of like the point I want to drive home is that short interest, yes, like it is relevant, and I definitely am aware of most of the time. I'm aware of what the short interest is on these companies that are reporting, and when it's high, that is interesting. But in and of itself, that's not going to be a reason for me to jump into a trade. All right. I want to see the technical setup be good, and I want to see the option pricing be good, and like those two are trump anything else, and then Jordan Trist, like that'll be something like on top of it, and that would get me really excited and maybe get me to go after a little bit more aggressively. All right. So again, pretty busy week coming up, especially for this late in August. So a lot of big names. I think a lot to look forward to. And I'm expecting a lot of good action. So hopefully we follow through on that and we get some good earnings trades this week. All right. So if you like this video and you're looking for more information on earnings trading or more information on option swing trading, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Hope you guys have a great night. Stay well, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.